found human footprints that are 23,000 years old.
From Tony Kornheiser, and they were made by Louis Carnesecca, who we love.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. He
do.
may not think you love him because you take more shots.
I love him.
You take
he
those
knows
big shots.
I love him. He knows. We go back a long way.
He has good stories about you. I will tell him. I can't share them. He has good stories about you, and you know what they are.
And they're true. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Knicks win. Caitlin Clark struggles, and Tim Legler joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the Denver Nuggets cruising past Minnesota last night, 112-97, to take a 3-2 lead in their series. That's 3 wins in a row for Denver, and the first home court win in the entire series. Nikola Jokic had 40 points on 15 of 22 shooting. Anthony Edwards had just 18 points on 5 of 15 shooting. Wilbon, you were bullish on Minnesota last week. How do you explain this turnaround?
Yeah, Tony, the turnaround came in Game 3. It came real quick. I mean, game 5, there's no turnaround now. The turnaround, we saw it coming. Those of us who had to say, oh, my God, I was wrong. And it's largely because of Nikola Jokic. Not only because of Nikola Jokic. The entire team had a role. I mean, Aaron Gordon's been close to perfect. Jamal Murray has been back to his great self after like a game and a half of where is he. Michael Malone has been a motivational master. But there was a point last night, Tony, where Jokic, the MVP, for those of us who thought, okay, maybe we need some confirmation of Jokic's MVP this third time. He had a stretch where he made moves that included a little skyhook off glass. And it was like, oh, my God, is he going Kareem? And then he had some footwork with his back to the basket and spinning around that made him look like Tim Duncan. And then he had some in the open court against Rudy Gobert, the defensive player of the year, where he looked like Akeem Olajuwon did a dream shake. And you're like, no. Oh, no. He can't have all that and make passes like Bill Walton. It was a stunning performance. And so there's a lot of places where they just eclipsed Minnesota. But you got to start with the MVP who received his award last night, I think.
Yeah. I will just say this. The series feels like it's over. I agree with you. It felt like it was over after Game 3. In the last 3 games, Denver has outscored Minnesota by 50 points. That's just too many points. I want to talk about 2 players. I want to talk about Jokic and Anthony Edwards. I'm going to start with Jokic, who last night had 40 points and 13 assists. And you mentioned Rudy Gobert. Gobert, the defensive player of the year, 4 or 5 times, and this year. When he was the primary defender, Jokic went 8 of 9 on him. He ate his lunch, right? Jokic plays 41 minutes. He has no turnovers. Our friend Shaquille O'Neal can lobby all he wants for anyone he wants for MVP. Because, Mike, MVP is not necessarily the best player. This guy, Jokic, is the best basketball player in the world right now, and I know you agree with that. Anthony Edwards, he's a great talent. I want to stop the comparisons to Michael Jordan. I guess Michael Jordan had games like this, but in a 2-2 series in a Game 5, to go 5 of 15 and 1 of 5 from 3, let's just stop that comparison. This thing at the moment belongs to Jokic.
Oh, it belongs to Jokic, no doubt, Tony. Not only is he the MVP, he is the best player in the world. And Anthony, believe me, I was around courtside for enough of Michael Jordan's games early on when he was 22 years old. They went about often, and he'd be the first to tell you, like Anthony Edwards' game did last night. So people forgot those I haven't. They happened. But Jokic, and more Jokic. Over in the East, the Knicks bounced back, blew out the Pacers by 30. Jalen Brunson had 44, while the Knicks defense held the Pacers to just 91 total points. Just the other day, the Knicks appeared totally spent. So, Tony, what does last night's result say to you?
It says to me only that the Knicks are now up 3-2 in games. I don't see any great metaphor here. Jalen Brunson is the headline because he had 44 points in this game. Mike, in the 7 playoff games the Knicks have won this year, he's got 22, 24, 47, 41, 43, 29, and 44. In the last 5 games the Knicks have won this year, he's averaging 41. So his scoring appears linked to the Knicks' success. And then last night, it was rebounding as well. The Knicks out-rebounded Indiana last night 53 to 29. On the offensive end, it was 20 to 5, which meant that second chance points were 26 to 9 in favor of the Knicks. And that's why at the end of the game, Rick Carlisle said this was very embarrassing. Because that's what happened. The Knicks thoroughly beat them.
They did, Tony. And so everything you said about the Knicks is, let me just rubber stamp that, and then we move over to Indiana. Rick Carlisle played for tough teams. He played with Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish and Dennis Johnson and Danny Ainge, the Boston Celtics. Rick Carlisle knows a thing, too, about toughness. As a coach that he had that in Dallas with Jason Kidd, Dirk Nowitzki. He doesn't have it now. And he's not going to say that. He can't say it. I'm saying it. It was unbelievable how soft, physically and mentally, the Indiana Pacers were last night. One game after trashing the Knicks. The Knicks were exhausted in game, 4. They were exhausted. They were injured. They could not physically rally themselves to even barely be awake in that game, and we understood that. But, Tony, last night, the Pacers offered no resistance at some point. That is why, to me, if I was able to ask him, Rick Carlisle would say he was embarrassed. What, the Pacers, seriously? And Draymond Green talked about this on the Turner telecast postgame. They didn't even begin to run through screens and exert themselves and spend the kind of physical energy you have to expend in a late in the series playoff game. So this series is over too. The Pacers
I'm not sure of that.
Tony,
I'm not sure of that.
It's over. The Knicks are going to go into Indiana in Game 6 and win Game 6 in that series. Okay.
I think the Pacers will win that particular game. I do. We move now to Caitlin Clark's WNBA regular season debut last night. She and the Indiana Fever were beaten decisively in Connecticut by the Sun, 92 to 71. Clark missed her first 4 shots, had no points in the first quarter, only 7 by halftime. She finished with 20 points and also 10 turnovers, an inglorious double-double. Orban, you and I both watched the game and texted during it. What did you make of Clark's debut?
Well, Tony, there's so much to make of it. And, sadly, the conversation nationally will be about just the numbers. And the numbers do matter, particularly the 10 turnovers. But as you and I talked about this game like sort of old-fashioned sports writers, one of your texts just said, she is in way over her head at the moment. It'll take some time. And, of course, I had the same thought. And she may get there. Hope she gets there. She may not. But these other players, as you said, bigger, faster, stronger, at least as talented, more experienced. I mean, you look at a game. I look at a game last night with Asia Wilson, another game. Asia Wilson's so much better than Caitlin Clark. They're not to be compared yet. And I understand the moment, the historic level of interest Caitlin Clark has brought to women's basketball. All of that is to be credited. Yeah. But now we're in pro basketball, and the women in that league don't have to care about that. Some may not. But she's not ready for that yet. So it's like, let's check back. I'll check back in June and see how ready she is, because she was in over her head last night.
I think she's going to have much, much better games than this. I think there's huge room for improvement, because I've watched her, and you've watched her be truly great. Truly great. And only a few weeks ago in the NCAAs. But this was a rough start. This was not Magic. This was not Bird. This was not LeBron. And Caitlin Clark's pro debut was almost as anticipated as that. She had the misfortune, I think, I just found out this morning, that people say that Connecticut is the most physical defensive team in the entire league. And it sort of showed last night. Caitlin Clark was 5 of 15 with the 10 turnovers. Again, and she did play against players older, faster, stronger, more physical. Yeah. I mean, she got bumped off the ball once or twice. I never saw that happen in Utah. I think she's going to be much, much better than this. There's a lot of pressure on her right now, Mike. A lot of pressure from a lot of different sides. She's supposed to bring the ratings. She's supposed to be the tide that rises all the boats. It's hard. She's in the pros now.
Too much pressure, if you ask me.
It's hard. Let's take a break. Coming up, what happened to the Timberwolves? Let's get back into the NBA playoffs with our great friend, ESPN NBA analyst Tim Legler. Tim, I'm not a social media guy, but I was told that you tweeted out that Jokic's third quarter last night was damn near basketball perfection. Can you explain why?
Yeah, I actually also said that if you could submit as a player one quarter of any game in your career, you wanted to make that your submission for people to look at and judge you as a player. So we wanted to be at your best. That was the quarter for Nikola Jokic. And it was a variety of reasons. It was first of all, it was dominance literally every possession. I felt like every single trip went through him. And that's not always the case with Denver. That's first. Secondly, at one point on 3 consecutive baskets, he posted up 3 different 7-footers, one of whom was the Defensive Player of the Year, one of whom who was the 6th Man of the Year, who's a big-time defender in Nasri, and one of whom is a perennial all-star caliber player, Karl Anthony Towns. It was 3 straight trips. So I joked it was 21 feet of work that he put in 3 trips. And it was almost laughable how difficult it was for them to stay with his footwork. And at the end of it, this amazing touch that he's got. So with the ease with which he did it, the perfect reads with the passing that he made, and just the level of aggression that he exhibited and his ability to convert literally everything that he had an opportunity to, I just thought it was absolutely beautiful, dominant basketball, and watching an MVP player at his absolute best.
Well, the big switcheroo in the next series we're going to talk about, Knicks Pacers, took place between games 4 and 5, where you get this massive turnaround. Tim, this is less about strategy to me than the Pacers. I'm sorry, I would be critical now, not being tough enough, mentally or physically. Please feel free to tell me I'm crazy.
No, I think it's fair. Look, I do think there's a blessing in disguise for the Knicks to get blown out in Game 4 rather than lose a close game late, because Josh Hart would have played 48 more minutes that night. Brunson would have played 45. DiVincenzo would have played 47. Instead, being down 30 meant Josh Hart played half a game that night. Other guys got rest. I do think that mattered. They looked a lot fresher last night, so that's part of it. Secondly, 3 things changed from what happened in Indianapolis. The first is Nembhard was back on Brunson far too much, and I've been screaming it since before the series. He cannot be caught in one-on-one situations with Jalen Brunson. It is going to be a basket or something really good for the Knicks 90% of the time. Too much of that took place last night. There was less of that in Indianapolis. It was more Nesmith on him, more Nembhard last night. So Brunson got back into a comfort zone. The offensive rebounding really came to bite them. 20 offensive rebounds means you can't get out and run, which is where the Pacers are at their best. And then the last component, Michael, and this points to what you just said, where was Tyrese Halliburton? There's been 2 games in this series where you didn't notice him offensively at all for the Pacers. Game 1 and last night. Coincidence, they lost both games. Tyrese Halliburton cannot have his floor be that low as an offensive player. He's got to be better than that. He's got to bring it the next 2 games if the Pacers want to have a chance to win this series.
The mid-range game in basketball, as you know, appeared to be on the extinction list, but Jamal Murray and, more importantly, SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, seem to be bringing it back. Is there some change, or is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's case, Tim, is he just that great, or we're gonna see something trend because of the way he plays successfully?
Yeah, look, I think that you need more of it, I think, in this league, and I think it's an important element to your offense to win it all. He's special, Michael. He's special. He's a very unique player. For a guard to operate in his favorite comfort zone is basically between the elbows extended out to half court. So basically that middle third of the floor. And very few guards have great success in that area of the floor, getting to their spots and making mid-range contested lean-back jump shots. But that is his favorite shot. He can stop on a dime and lean back and get that shot off just that half second before you're able to react to him stopping. It's a major advantage that he has. And look, the other component he saw the other night, and you're right, man, 4th quarter, he makes 5 jumpers in that quarter. And Luka and Kyrie combined for 3 in that quarter. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander outscored the 2 of those guys combined, and he made a series of tough jump shots, which tells you he's made for the moment. He's made for pressure shots. He's made for the bright lights. He embraced Braces it, he ran toward it, and now it's going to be up to Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving to have a response because they were nowhere near good enough for Dallas to win this series in Game 4. They've got to be significantly better going forward.
All right, Tim, we'll get you out of here on this, and we're going to ask you to do it really quick, 15 seconds or less. You have Boston and Cleveland out on the court tonight. Is your thought that Boston closes it out tonight?
When I learned about Mind Bloom, I was curious if psychedelic therapy could actually help with those symptoms.
I think so, Tony. The line is 16. That tells you a lot, I think. The line is 16. You don't see that in playoff games typically in a 3-1 series. Look, Cleveland, they've run out of firepower. It would take a Miami Heat-like three-point shooting performance like they had in Game 2 against Boston when Miami made 23 threes or whatever it was. It's going to take something like that to be in the game. Boston understands the importance of ending this series so they don't have to take another road trip and tie this thing up for 2 more days. They can sit back and wait and let the Pacers and Knicks beat the hell out of each other.
Thank you as always, Tim. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Quarterbacks on the field, Walter Payton and Emmitt Smith. I was too young to see Jim Brown except the last year of his career. Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, that's my list.
Happy anniversary, Len Barker. On this day 43 years ago, the Cleveland right-hander threw a perfect game at home against Toronto in front of fewer than 8,000 fans on a cold, wet night in Cleveland. That was the 10th perfect game in baseball history. Barker's catcher, Ron Hasse, is the only catcher to catch 2 perfect games. Hasse also caught Dennis Martinez's perfect game for Montreal in 1991. Hasse played 14 years in the majors for Cleveland, Oakland, the Yankees, White Sox, Montreal, and the Cubs. He had a career batting average of .266, ordinary numbers like Barker's 74 and 76 record and 4.34 ERA. By the way, Danny Ainge went 0 for 2 that night against Barker.
Perfect game, Tony. It seems so much bigger deal, that and no-hitters. Once upon a time. By the way, people wondering why I didn't mention Gale Sayers. He's in a category like by himself. He didn't count with the rest of them. That's my idol, not just my favorite running back.
Having trails to elimination for the Boston Bruins. Bruins coach Jim Montgomery called last night's Game 5, quote, our best game in the series, unquote. And as a result of Boston's 2-1 win in Florida, that series continues. Boston won an elimination game as goalie Jeremy Swayman made 28 saves, including a close-range shot by Florida Sam Reinhart with 8 seconds left in the game. Game 6 is in Boston Friday night. The Edmonton Oilers tied their series with Vancouver at 2-2 last night by beating the Canucks 3-2. Evan Bouchard scored with 39 seconds left in the game, just 62 seconds after Vancouver's Dakota Joshua had tied the game at 2 after Vancouver pulled its goalie. In his first playoff start ever, Calvin Pickard made 19 saves and he got the win.
Tony, you feel exhausted after you watch those games. Not only watch the third period of each, they were mesmerizing. I mean, you're breathless after you watch. You know how those Stanley Cup games are that are closer to 1-goal games and goaltenders out of net? And you just can't believe the level of excitement people should watch Stanley Cup playoffs.
Let's go to the big finish if we could. PGA Championship tees off tomorrow. Who would you like to see win it?
Well, you know, Tony, I root for Morikawa and Finau. I'd be thrilled if one of them won it. I think they'll be on the board. How about that? They'll be close. They'll be in it. Bob Baffert scratched Preakness' favorite Muth after the horse's fever spiked overnight. That's significant, isn't it?
Of course, it's a favorite horse. I mean, this helps Mystic Dan, right? And trainer Kenny Perry helps them. Kenny McPeak, rather. Chris Sale gave up just 2 hits over 7 shutout innings in a win over your Cubs. How'd that taste?
And it tastes bad that the Cubs have been shut out back-to-back nights in Atlanta. Let's get the hell out of Georgia. A miniature poodle named Sage won the Westminster Dog Show. You okay with that?
Not a miniature poodle guy. I'm a Chessie guy. Best dog in the world. Last one, Angel Reese makes a regular season debut tonight for the Sky at the Wings. What do you expect from her?
I before Camila Cardoso was out there with her.
So hello what's up guys, welcome to another brand new video. So let's start with a video. So guys, with that was in more time, let's start